Hello and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Today is Tuesday, but it kind of feels like Monday because we all were on a long break. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. We're all coming back from Labor Day. Of course, that is a U.S. holiday. And it really does feel like Monday. It's Tuesday. It means that Friday is going to get here quicker. Again, what a weekend for games. I spent the entire weekend, and usually after midnight, hanging out with so many people from this community playing the game that's on your screen right now, Helldivers 2. Oh my goodness. Now, this game is, listen, it is unforgiving. There is a massive learning curve. Again, you can play some of the easier levels where they, it's listed as insignificant, meaning you're not really doing your part till you get past medium. But my God, what an incredible game. I cannot believe the response from the Xbox players. I'm not surprised, folks. We're going to get into the opening story about how well Helldivers 2 is doing on the paid-for Xbox store, something that I talked about multiple times. And you know what? I hate to pat myself on the ass, but I was right. And you know what? I'm going to see if I can find the clip. It's 59 seconds. I know he's in here. He's in the chat right now. Do UK now, the Broke Boy Insider. I got a chance to hang out with him for a couple hours playing the game, and there was this one part where there is something called the Bulldog that is it's like a sentry that floats. It shoots lasers. So wherever there's a bug, it's going to shoot a laser. If you happen to be in front of that laser, well, your character is going to get nipped, and his character did. It wasn't my fault because I have no control over it. It kind of does its own thing. And what happened next made me laugh so hard that the tears were coming down my face. I almost couldn't compose myself. It was the funniest thing. And obviously, he says he has a bone to pick, not only with me, but with several people in the community because he just keeps getting killed by this bulldog. But hey, man, again, that's not the only story that broke over the weekend, folks. FAIRGAMES lost its creative director, and that happened in May. And interestingly enough, we did not hear about it. The games media, of course, does what they do best and not report on bad Sony news, but certainly they will report on good Xbox news. So we're going to get into that. And then, of course, WCCF Tech did a story over the weekend comparing the next generation Xbox to the PlayStation 6. And saying that it was going to cost potentially a lot more than the PS6 due to its open platform, with obviously having to give stores like Steam, Good Old Games, and Epic 30% of the cut. We'll break that story down on the back end. Again, it's hogwash because, well, there are reasons, ladies and gentlemen. But a infinite number. How was your weekend, sir? How you feeling?
Oh man, it was a pretty good weekend. I'm feeling all right, Boom. Yeah, some of the quotes I like from Helldivers 2 was always like, how about a nice big cup of liberty?
Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
Or they'd be like, get some, come on, yeah, get some. They're going insane as they're having to fight all these like ridiculously dangerous things in this world. And they're like, get some. They're hyping themselves up like to psycho status to make sure they get through what they got to get through. Get some, yeah, get some.
Yeah,
or they laugh maniacally as they shoot.
Yeah, they're laughing. Like if you just hold the trigger down on something like the machine gun, which has like 150 rounds, or like for instance the flamethrower, and it's just the bugs are walking into it and you're just mowing them down. The lines that come out of the Helldiver is they're classic.
Yeah, I love it, man. This is very entertaining. I haven't played it recently. I was going to try to get some gaming in over the weekend with it, but I never got a chance to. But I've been hooked on another game, as you know, Boom.
Yeah, you're a beast, bro. Yeah, you know what? Why don't you tell the audience what you've been up to? Because we never really talk about what we've been playing. So I've been playing the heck out of Helldivers. I've been playing a little bit of Shinobi, but you, sir, have been playing a lot of Shinobi. Please tell the audience what you've been up to, kind sir.
Man, the game is probably only like 7 hours long, right? Maybe 8, if depending on how you play. I have like about 40 hours in it now. I've beaten it twice, and I'm on a third part, almost about to beat it again.
Jesus.
Love it. I got like 5 achievements left, and so I'm about to iron those out, and they're not easy either. So I'm going to get rid of those, get through those rather, and I'll probably be able to move on to Rage Bound, and then of course Silk Song. But I wrote up a little bit of a small little synopsis, not synopsis, a little small little review on Twitter the other day. I gave it a 9 out of 10. I think it's spectacular. Now I played the Rage Bound demo, and I eventually bought Rage Bound the other day as well.
Nice, dude.
It's part of that bundle they got, like the Ninja bundle that Sega did with .emu, whatever. But so I have it. I'm going to get on that too. But from playing the demo of Rage Bound, I have to say I think Shinobi is the better game. I'm not trying to be funny, and I'm not trying to diminish Ninja Gaiden Rage Bound, but I think Shinobi is that much better. And yes,
Shinobi has what was that? That game from Capcom, Okami, right? You remember that? It has, yes, it has.
Oh, that painterly style you're talking about.
Yes.
Yeah, it does. It does have that. It has nice art direction. The thing that surprised me about Shinobi is that it has this really, it's more in depth and combat wise than you would have expected, right? Like you think
it's yes,
hack and slash, run through, just a little quick slash, keep moving. Like that's the typical style of those type of old school Shinobi and Ninja Gaiden, right? Throw a little kunai, keep it moving. But no, on this you actually do combos, right? Like you actually do, like you can do dedicated combos, and it's a very detailed kind of combat which you can tailor yourself with different amulets and ninjutsus that you want to give yourself. You also get these screen filling nimpo magic attacks that you get to do, such as one that you can heal yourself, which looks so dope as it turns the screen blue, and it's like this magical, I think it's a lady, I'm not sure, like magical female body appears on the screen like to bless you. And or you could do the one that's for fire, and it's these dragons come out and start burning everybody up. It is such a well-made game.
It's spectacular.
It is. Lizard Cube and Dotemu were bringing back the 80s and 90s, and I have to thank them for it, man. It's, if you had any doubts about playing or getting Shinobi, for one, it's cheap, so it's not a costly game, right? Like and that's the thing we have to be like aware of, and I think reward for games that give you quality gaming for a very reasonable price. Look at Silk Song, $20. We already know that's about to be a banger. We already know. I don't even like saying banger for game. Well, we know that's about to be a banger. Like we know it, right? So like we have to start rewarding these devs and these publishers when they give us pure quality like this with a very reasonable price. I think if anything, to encourage them to do more like that. I think so. Yeah, love it.
Well, I mean, that's good stuff. I mean, and you know what? Obviously, we're gonna start doing this a little bit more often. I kind of like when we all sit down as a group of guys and gals, kind of just what you've been playing. I'm off another screen, so folks, why don't you throw what you're playing in? You currently got what you did over the weekend, Jamie. Let's welcome you, sir. Thanks so much for joining us. I know you're a bit under the weather. Did you get a chance to do any gaming over the weekend? And what did you play, man?
Yeah, man, happy to be here. Still sick. Shocker to no one. But no, I did a lot of gaming over the weekend. I've actually played. There's this game I'm addicted to, and it came out like 3 years ago, and like next to no one really talks about it. And it's probably the most next gen. I'm doing air quotes. The next gen game today. It's called Hard Space Shipbreaker.
Never even heard of it.
Yeah, so it's a first person game where you're in this space dock, and all you do is dismantle starships in 0G.
Wow.
I've put like 180 hours into this.
So it's kind of like the paint simulator or like like one of the simulators, whether it be the cleaning simulator, kind of like that, except you're just dismantling ships.
Yeah, you just dismantle spaceships and put the parts in the right compartment or whatever. And there's a little story throughout the game, but I've put like 180 hours through this.
Wow,
I've played through the main story 3 times. Like it's unbelievably addictive. You dismantle a spaceship and there could be like hundreds, if not thousands of parts floating around in zero G. It's just impressive. I highly recommend people play that. I've also been playing Final Fantasy 16. Shocker to no one again. That thing, my God. If that came out this year, it would be my game of the year, probably. Like it's either going to be toss up between that and Expedition 33 because Final Fantasy 16 is just bloody good. It's nice to have a main character in a Final Fantasy game that isn't a whiny little, because like I love Final Fantasy, and like Final Fantasy 10 is one of my favorite games of all time. But my God, that main guy Tidus, every time he speaks, I want to run into a wall head first. But with this, Clive, arguably one of the best characters in a long time, we have an actual dude that has testosterone, and actually knows what he's doing. He's not clumsy all the time.
He's a man.
Yeah, and like I don't know, it's a nice change of pace, and it's got this Game of Thrones vibe throughout the story. There's very adult themes. That's also like Game of Thrones in the story, which is new for a Final Fantasy game. But I'm loving that. I'm 90 hours in.
Yep.
Wow,
it is very Game of Thronesy for sure.
Yeah. Like I'd be shocked if we ever heard that the directors never even like saw Game of Thrones. Like it's so blatant Game of Thrones. But,
if he said he didn't, then I would call him a liar.
There's definitely liar. Even the way they do the war table, that's telling you where the factions are moving. That's Game of Thrones. Like, let's be honest.
Hell,
but that's
Clive.
great. Yeah,
Clive looks like Jon Snow.
Yeah, he is Jon Snow, isn't he? Like,
yeah,
like
he's a taller Jon Snow. That's what he is.
Yeah, but it just works, and
and he knows things. Jon Snow doesn't. Jon Snow knows nothing, of course, as we know.
Yeah, but and I've got like 2 expansions to go as well, and the end of the game. But brilliant, and also Cyberpunk 2077. This might be controversial. I think that might be the best open world city game ever made.
Wow,
for Cyberpunk.
Yeah.
It is a great game, right? Like it's so much greatness about Cyberpunk, but it's so much missed potential. Like, they could have done, right?
Yeah, I mean, you can tell that like they were kind of held back by the hardware because they tried to put that on last generation. They really did, and like there was features removed. Like we were meant to get wall running and like climbing with blades. They never put that in the game. There was originally going to be flying cars in the game that you could, actually drive a pilot. That's not in the game.
Yeah.
Like sneaking into buildings and like doing the hacking stuff is for me at least, it's the most fun part of the game. It's basically open world Deus Ex. But they could have done more with environments and internal buildings and stuff. Originally it was meant to have a GTA Online type mode, which would have been, my God, that would have been the best thing ever. But like
it missed. That's what I'm saying. Like it missed out on those specific things.
Yeah.
And also, like the world looks cool, but it just feels empty-ish at times. Like if they could have gotten that right, I think it would have been like. I still love. But no, mind you, I
have not even started to play that game. It is so big.
My God.
It is so long that.
Oh, you'll like it, boy.
Like,
that was pretty pause worthy. I ain't gonna lie to you.
I put like this in this playthrough. I'm about 33 hours in, and I've maybe done about 10% of the main story.
Wow, dude, that is
I
mean, that's great. If you're really enjoying it, then that's awesome. Obviously nobody wants a short game, but
it's the side quests in that game are just incredible. In fact, I think the side quests are up there with some main quests. Driving around the open world and stuff. It's really cool. And they added so much with the 2.0 update a couple of years ago. Being able to sit on the subway and just like go around the city whenever you want, that type of thing. Just tons of improvements. But I'm loving that. And that's basically it.
Well, I mean, that's good stuff. So listen, folks, I found the clip. Again, this is Nino Vestek, myself, A-Bomb, and Do UK Now, the Broke Boy Insider, also known as One Right Nuts on Xbox. So, folks, I'm going to press play so you guys can hear this because, my God, it is just so funny. Check it out. Listen to this. Let me just start this from the beginning.
Look out, folks, money. Calling down a sentry. Ending in an eagle.
Oh, losing democracy.
New mag. For prosperity. Mag update.
Ah! Changing light.
My legs. Come For the love of liberty, my leg! Sweet liberty, my leg!
Sweet, sweet liberty.
Sweet liberty, my legs. Oh my God. So let me just remove that.
You know what's crazy? I was looking away when I heard the AR going off, and I knew that was the assault rifle from Halo. Just hearing it.
Yeah, it's folks. I'm gonna get the footage back up here in a hot second. But my God, that I gotta say, that's what I've been playing all weekend, ladies and gentlemen. I've been having a lot of fun with it. I know you guys, a lot of people have been having fun with it. I've played with about maybe 10 or 15 people from the community. I leave my game open. I'm always online. Everyone just jumps in and we just go for hours. And I put it this way. It has been so much fun, but also, can we all just admit that we are inundated in so many games that
Too many.
Did anyone play the Sonic racing demo? Oh my God, it's phenomenal. I put like 3 hours into the demo.
I heard it's gonna be fun.
Oh my God, it's so freaking good. I mean, I've already had bought it because I'm day one. And that's going to be a game that me and Tyler play. But yeah, it's just good time to be a gamer, ladies and gentlemen. But you know what? I want to get to the story. I mean, get to the first story. We're already 16 minutes in, but a big thank you to everyone that's here on a Tuesday to find out, what's been going on. But listen, let's get right into Helldivers. Helldivers 2, ladies and gentlemen, if you did not know, is currently holding the #1 spot and the #3 spot on Xbox's own game store for the top paid games. Now, why this is a story to open up today's show? Well, it's actually a 2-tiered conversation. The first part of this conversation is going to be that Humbra, it has destroyed narratives. Now, we have heard many times before that Xbox players, or Xbots, as the anti-Xbox community likes to call us, don't buy games. I don't know who they're talking about specifically because I've paid for about 7 games in the last week myself. But we are apparently conditioned to only play and enjoy games that are on Game Pass, which of course is, well, a narrative that was destroyed because Helldivers 2, a PlayStation first-party game that launched on the 26th, right alongside with Gears of War Reloaded, is holding the #1 and #3 spot. Now, again, folks, this is a multi-layered conversation because what this success does for Sony is the most important thing for them, not for me, because I'm not making any ducats out of it, but they're going to make money from people playing their game on an Xbox. And that resurgence not only saw big sales on Xbox, 600,000 copies in 2 days, which is a lot of copies in 2 days. And of course, it saw a player count go concurrent on all 3 platforms, over 503,000 players. Now again, we don't know the specific numbers. I was able to find the 136 for Steam. That means that the other part of that 503 is either PlayStation or Xbox, and probably a bit of both. I'm sure that listen, Xbox players play multiplayer games. That's just an absolute fact. I'm not saying that PlayStation gamers don't, but if there's anything you can say about Xbox, it's known as its multiplayer box. Umbra, this is a big deal, but again, 2-tiered conversation here. I think the success of Helldivers 2 on Xbox is going to knock the doors off its hinges on Sony bringing more games over. And I'm not talking about gas games, because there is a gas game that we got some new information over the weekend about that is dire. We'll get to that in the second half of this conversation. And of course, I'm talking about FAIRGAMES. Folks, I would imagine we're going to get a cancellation notification within the next couple of days. That's just my thought and theory, because obviously everyone has left the studio. Who's making the game? We'll get into that second half. But obviously we've talked about Spider-Man, we've talked about Days Gone, we've talked about Uncharted. Again, these are all rumors, nothing's confirmed. Spider-Man one keeps, reeking its ugly head for people on PlayStation that don't want to see their games go to Xbox. But people like me, who already platinumed it will be more than happy to rebuy it and play it again on my Xbox. Let's get into your thoughts on the success of Helldivers 2 holding the number 1 and number 3 spots for most paid games on Xbox, and whether or not you think that's going to knock the doors open for Sony to send more games to Xbox.
I mean, to me, it was already a foregone conclusion. I didn't expect both them to hold down the first spot for the normal basic edition and the what is the other edition called? The Super Citizen edition.
Yeah, the Super Citizen edition, which I bought. Yeah. I bought that both times, one on PlayStation and one on Xbox. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I didn't expect them to quite do that, but man, I mean, give Xbox gamers credit where credit is due. I mean, Xbox gamers do buy games, right? Like the whole narrative. How many terrible narratives are out there for Xbox guys? Have you noticed that? Like, not just the gamers,
quite a bit. Yeah,
it's a lot, right? I mean, it's dead. It died about 18 times. It died and came back more than Jesus. What's going on out here? Huh? You got a zombie box here. Yeah, it's crazy to see all these narratives, shattered, honestly, over and over and over, and yet they still persist. It's very weird. I was just talking about this with a bunch of fellas on how, you'll see all this bad news essentially for Sony with, the topic that we will be talking about soon and things like that. And yet you don't really see the press pushing on that too much. Now, if it's been Xbox, they've been they've been murdering them. They murderized them, as his old boy from Rocky would say, right? But like you would see that, and it's very different when it's Xbox. It's woe is me, is the end of Xbox, right? It's very doomy and gloomy with Xbox most of the time. This right here, it pushes back that narrative. One of the more negative stereotypes for Xbox gamers, in that they only rely on Game Pass. Now, I would be lying if I didn't say that I did see or do know people who be like, oh, it's a Game Pass first, like that's their mentality. But that's not a negative thing to me, because you're paying for that service. Yeah, I do expect you to bring those games to me. Yeah, I'm paying you however much a year. Yeah, I want to be spoiled. Spoil me. Treat me like a fancy pretty woman or something like that, and you Richard Gere, Xbox.
There absolutely. You go. That's right.
Take me out.
No, but all jokes aside, you're not wrong. Listen, you're paying for a service. You expect quality if you're paying top dollar. Right now, we're paying top dollar. So,
and people have become so used to calling it like Game Pass slop, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Game Pass has put out and grabbed some of the greatest games we've had in these past years. People are continuously ignoring for whatever godforsaken reason. But this right here, it just goes against that, and it pushes back, and it says, listen, we definitely value Game Pass, but we will buy games, we will buy quality, we will buy good stuff, right? And Helldivers is a good game. I've said it many times. In the past I played it. I got it on Steam. I got it gifted to me on Steam, and I had bought it on PlayStation sometime way back. Now I haven't touched that PlayStation in so long, but I still have it got it on Steam. I re-downloaded it rather to my PC over here, a gaming PC. So I'm definitely going to jump back on it. But we got to get a match or two in too.
Oh, we absolutely have to. Yeah, and the crossplay is phenomenal. Now, the only thing that
they don't have cross progression. That's the only thing.
Yes, yeah. That's where I'm wondering if they're working on it, because they've been very quiet about that. The crossplay is great, folks. I've played with people on PlayStation. I play people on PC and on Xbox. Mm-hmm. And I want to say over the weekend, I probably played about 40 matches, and it was.
Oh, you were in it.
Dude,
you were in it.
Tell you, you know what? You know how I know this old man is in it? Check this out. I play like Mrs. Boom likes to go do her thing with watch her shows, whatever. So I'll get 2 hours in. But what started happening Thursday is I got up at like 1 something in the morning. I was up to 5. Playing.
That's when you know the game. That's when you know the game got you.
Yes,
listen, I know exactly I know the feeling. It's happened to all of us when we really get a game that grabs hold to you, right? But yeah, and that's the thing. And we will buy quality games if it's worthwhile, right? And look, this caters to the style of or what do I say? The culture is better, a better word. It fits the culture of Xbox gamers, right? At least the hardcore. We are a first person shooter, third person shooter culture on Xbox, right? It's not to say that we don't value other genres, but those are our mainstay on Xbox. Let's not be, let's not kid
that's
ourselves.
kind of what Xbox's DNA is, right?
That's the DNA. Xbox is that built Xbox. Halo built Xbox, right? That has remained a mainstay. Gears added to that legacy. That's a mainstay, mind you. Two of the best first and third person shooters. So yeah, we got a strong legacy on Xbox. So it's going to, when you bring out a quality multiplayer game like that, be it COD, be it Battlefield, be it Helldivers, yeah, they will. You build it, they will come. And absolutely, I would say that if Sony has been paying attention, shout out to our brother Abdel. I saw your tweet. I would absolutely believe that you best believe some other games are going to be coming over. Now, the thing is that maybe the argument could be made, well, maybe just for first person, multiplayer games. They don't have many more left.
I mean, listen, it's funny. And he's not being a jerk about it, but he's being honest. There are none.
Right. So, listen, I was just about to say Returnal, Abdel. Now, that has been a rumor right there from shout out to Mag. He had pointed that out some time back. I know he did a video and everything on it. Returnal makes a lot of sense, obviously. But yeah, I think if you look at it, the entire slate makes a lot of sense, right? That's going to go. And that's from Spider-Man, which we've seen a lot of cryptic, or at least seemingly cryptic tweets from Insomniac, right?
They've been busy, bro.
They have. And like the tweet does seem ominous and kind of cryptic, and it's like, why did you say that? I still think back to when people were like, when is it coming to Xbox? They were like, never. You sure about that? You sure about that? I don't know. I think
September 7th is this Sunday, and there is again just for throwing it out there is a state of play happening this week. Hey, so listen, you just never know.
Remember the 7th day of September? No, seriously. things can change. Like multiplayer, they've run that well dry. And we'll get to why we're saying that in the next segment, but which everybody and their mother saw coming, mind you. It's not like I'm like tooting my own horn here, like, yep, I called it. All of us called this.
Yeah, we all did. Yeah.
Let's just be real, right? But just honestly, what else do they have to bring to the table, Sony? They're gonna have to start giving out single player games. That means Returnal, that means the Uncharted, that means the Last of Us series. And I have no doubt they would Horizon would be thrown out there. That seems easy, especially as that was floated out there. Boom, didn't you sometime way back claim or throw out the theory that Horizon Lego would come to Xbox?
I did, and I was ridiculed for it, and that's fine because I literally have talked to 3 people, 3, not 1, not 2, but 3 people that have confirmed that it is done.
You did. I remember sometime you did it way back. It's almost the same as you. Not almost. It's the same as you did with Helldivers. You said Helldivers last year sometime, and people were like, "This Xbot." Blah blah blah. Yeah, but now see, you better than me because I'd have been fine. I would have found every person who said, "Oh, what was that?"
They're witness protection. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah,
so
I'm
just walking around like a peacock strutting. You know what I'm saying? Showing that stuff off. It's
now
fun.
You can tell by the way I use my walk. I hear you. And listen, you better than me because if I would go back to them and be like, yeah, what you got to say now? But hey, respect, But no, I think that those make sense. The thing is, the landscape of gaming has changed, and that's the one thing I will say, and I've said this on my show too, where I'm a little slightly worried in that we know about the black hole games, kind of strong stranglehold on gaming right now, right?
Yeah.
And we know Microsoft is likely, they're the current kings of handling, multiplayer gaming, the franchises they have, from COD to Halo to, to Sea of Thieves, all these different games they get all to WoW. So they have a lot of different games where they're pulling a lot of money from annually and such, right? So they do that. They're well set for the future. Sony is fumbling for that, but we know that Microsoft seeing that might curtail some of the options we get for single player based games, and that's the thing I'm worried about. And I think that could eventually go towards Sony in that regard too. And I hope it doesn't. And maybe the way for them to avoid that is to start sending those games over to Xbox, right? Get those sales. I mean, they got it already with Steam, and it's more reason why I believe the day and date thing for, the PC situation with them will happen sooner than later. It's already dropping to 6 months, right? Didn't they already announce that? So 6 months to a year. So
yeah,
I can see that. So that's my thing. I feel like, eventually it'll be a day and date kind of thing for PC. And my thing is, I'll say this last part and I'll shut up. But for Sony, I'm trying to figure out what's the big thing for them to do outside of, because they don't have many multiplayer games to send over, right? Fair Games is the last one, and anyway, so they have to move the single player, and they're not going to get a bunch of like microtransaction sales, etc. But they can definitely get some sales on Xbox for certain games. Spider-Man would sell like hotcakes, right? For instance, so they can definitely do that. My thing would be, what do they do once next gen happens? Because I keep going back to that, in that they're going to get cut out essentially because, well, in a way, not necessarily, because they'll get their 70% or whatever it is from Steam or whatever, right? And the Xbox gamers will be able to play it on their Xbox regardless. But will Sony find a way to kind of cut Steam or whoever else out of the way and sell direct to Xbox? That's the thing I'm wondering. So I will see.
It's going to be very interesting, and they're going to be walking a razor's edge. And that's why I think that based on what we know, and again, look, folks, the writing's on the wall. The handheld that's coming out in a couple of months, or in a month from now, the Xbox Ally S and X are going to be open platforms. They're PC handhelds, yes, but they are Xbox devices. Why? Well, Xbox is in their title, and they have an actual Xbox button on them. They're made and designed to run like your Xbox in a handheld, but have all the power of the PC. You're going to be able to find all of your games in one aggregated area. Every game that you own you're going to find it and be able to download it depending on what storage size and what console you buy. What Umbra's referring to is this kind of puts Sony in a bit of a pickle, because if they hold their games to the vest too long, gamers like me will still play a PlayStation game on their Xbox because I'll be able to buy it from Steam. And of course, that's the worst case scenario, as they're still getting their money, but they're going to want to sell direct. They're not going to want to have to give anybody anything. They're going to want to sell direct, and they can do that. And they have IPs, legacy IPs, that have transmedia shows and film attached to them. Spider-Man, world-renowned. There are 3 of them. You have Spider-Man 2018, you have Miles Morales, you have Spider-Man 2. Venom is supposed to be coming out next year. Then the following year, it's Spider-Man 3. You have Wolverine. These are IPs that will sell not only gangbusters on any platform, but specifically Xbox, because they don't have a Spider-Man game. That's the difference, right? A game like Uncharted, right? Now, I know the film came out. I really actually liked the film, and a lot of people gave it a lot of crap, but I very much enjoyed the film. I've seen it like 3 or 4 times. It's great. It's an Uncharted film. Could a sequel happen? Sure. Could a show happen? Yes. Is there a God of War show happening? Yes, there is. Is there a Horizon show being made? Yes, there is. Is there something called The Last of Us that's won all these Emmys? Yeah, it is. Mm-hmm. So if they were to put that out on the start of season 3, would it sell on Xbox? Probably. So again, these are the decisions that Sony's going to have to make. But I want to bring Jamie in, and let's talk Helldivers, because I have said this, I think 3 or 4 times publicly and a ton of times privately, and I honestly believe this in my heart of heart. Right now, Xbox games are killing on PlayStation. And now we have an example of Sony releasing a quality, phenomenal multiplayer game like Helldivers 2 and it's doing exactly what Xbox did and continues to do on the PlayStation Store, and that is be in the top 3 for most paid-for games, and that is the number 1 spot and the number 3 spot. I think that not only is this a waving of the flag for Sony to be like, you know what, we want more of that. Let's do Spider-Man. Let's do Days Gone. I think those are next. Returnal, we already know, thanks to Mag, that that's happening. They're working on it right now, folks. Does that release this year? I have no idea. I'm not a designer. But I can tell you right now, is Returnal going to sell on Xbox? Well, guess what? I'm going to buy it. I didn't buy it on PlayStation. I'll buy it on Xbox. Is the game difficult? Yes. Hard as hell. Controller throwing, almost. But I think that the instant success of Helldivers 2 is going to scream at somebody on the board that is of this publicly traded company, Jamie. Is going to be like, you see, we want more of that. We want to make more money, put some more games on Xbox. And Hiroki Totoki, who's the money guy, is gonna do what his investors want him to do, and that is put more games on Xbox. Let's get your thoughts on the success of Helldivers 2 and whether or not you believe it's going to knock the doors off its hinges.
Just a few minutes ago, I posted because I just checked. Helldivers in the UK on the Xbox store is at number 1 and number 3 in top paid games. I mean, look, it's a game where you fight aliens and robots. It's a third-person game where you fight aliens and robots. We don't really have many of them on Xbox that are new, at least. So, like, this is, it was going to be big. A lot of us said it was going to be big. It does a lot of things right. People love the game, and clearly Sony's having huge success with it. Microsoft, they make money off this, just like how Sony makes money off Gears and vice versa. Like, everyone's in like a winning position at the minute. I've seen 1 or 2 people in your chat, like they do not like the idea of other games going multi-platform. But the truth is, like, these games cost hundreds of millions of dollars to make, right? So, like, if you know that you have like all this money invested in a brand new shiny experience, maybe it costs 200, maybe it costs $300 million, and you know for a fact you're going to make way more money if you put it elsewhere at the same time. I mean, why wouldn't you? Like, we've seen these companies go to, moving their metrics to, user engagement rather than sales. Why is that? Because in the end, they end up making more money. That's all a numbers game. That's why you see Call of Duty with a battle pass and skins as opposed to map packs, right? It just makes more money. But yeah, so like, this is obviously going to do really well. They're going to have massive success from it. And look, Nixus are clearly happy. The performance of it is really good. Apparently it's 60 FPS on the Series S as well. So like, everyone's in a winning position here. I think that, if you're Sony, you're looking at these sales like very closely. I think at a time where we all getting ripped off all the time, companies are raising the prices of games, hardware, and we're being nickel and dimed every 5 seconds, and we're not getting anything extra in return. And then you have games come out like Helldivers, maybe a Mafia, or soon, Hollow Knight Silksong, where they're actually reasonably priced. Helldivers 2 is unbelievably, reasonably priced. It's I think it's like $32.99 in the UK. Yeah, that's a completely fair price for a game like that. Completely fair. And the cheaper your game, the more people are going to buy it. That's literally how it works. Like, Death Stranding was £17 in the UK when it launched, and it made more money that week than FIFA. Like it says everything, So like, they are gonna put more games elsewhere, and they've already done it in the past. The massive elephant in the room nobody ever wants to talk about because it's a Lego game is Lego Horizon. It was put on the Switch day one. It's not a live service, from what I know. It's a single player or co-op Lego game. That's it, right? And people gave it a pass because it's the Nintendo Switch. The problem with this whole console war thing, it's this never ending like territorial thing that's going on. People that need to have their their pile of games, not let anyone else touch them, even though nothing's really been taken away from them. People have in their mindset that these games going elsewhere is going to be the end of the platform. It's like, no, the end of the platforms are these black hole games, Right? I whine about this every week. Everyone listening right now, all of us say it. We are the last bastions of a dying breed, right? All these new gamers coming into the scene, they're playing Apex, they're playing Warzone, Fortnite, free to play slop, right? And I like Warzone, and I'm calling it free to play slop, but like that's where all that money's going. All these new players are going there, right? So yeah, if you're Sony, you're going to be looking at bringing more games over. Like, look, you have Spider-Man sitting there on a server, right, where it could be potentially making millions more sales if you put it on Xbox and Switch. So why wouldn't you? What, just so you can have a logo on a box, just so someone can on Twitter can like have a profile picture and do list wars on a daily basis? Like, Sony doesn't even know these people exist, right? These companies care about money, the bottom line. And at the end of the day, Helldivers 2 has clearly made a crap ton of money. It's Sony's most successful live service game, basically to date. And it's going to get ongoing content. I think there's more coming soon. And
they just announced the one that you're going into the caves.
Yeah, that's going to be big
DLC.
as well. And I'd be shocked, like really shocked, if they don't put Helldivers 2 on the Switch 2 by Christmas.
I mean, I'm sure it could run it. Again, it wouldn't listen. So Sony, this is very successful. I'm happy to be here, talking about it. But listen, Umbra, run with the Fair Games. I got to take this call real quick. I'll be back in 1 second.
All right, so we're moving to that topic then.
Yes.
Fair Games. Jamie, is it fair what's about to happen to it?
Oof.
The folks want to know. Let me put on my quality messy. Fox News voice. No, like I'm doing a news anchor. Yeah. So, Jamie, the news right now currently is that Fair Games director Daniel Drapeau has left Haven Studios. Jade Raymond, former founder and CEO of the company, left back in May. Fair Games was announced alongside Marathon, and we have yet to see anything since. The cancellation wouldn't surprise anyone at this point. What's your take on this? And would you see this being canceled and closed, which I'm sure many of us do believe? And what do you think this will cost Sony? What will come out of this?
Well, that's a good question, Umbra. Long story short, I think they are kind of screwed. This game's been in development for years. It's they've had like leads step away multiple times. Jade Raymond, who was basically the figurehead of the studio, left a year ago, who's probably one of the biggest names in gaming. Basically helped make the Assassin's Creed franchise. So you'd think like this, they must have had something on their hands. But we've seen nothing since. We got a CGI trailer a couple of years ago, and basically that's it. And I think in an age where Concord 2 basically became the biggest flop of all time, more so than E.T. So if it actually had physical copies, we're probably going to see a documentary in 20 years about some landfill somewhere. I think that Sony, if you're looking at their live service games, you've really got to wonder, like, will these games even have any hope of doing well? Everyone's playing Apex, everyone's playing Fortnite, Warzone. Like, could Sony really put out another dud like that? Because people can joke saying, "Oh, it's a dud, it's a flop, or whatever." But the truth is, like, these games cost millions, hundreds of millions of dollars. So, like, how much money's been sunk into this over the past several years since it was announced? Hiring people, bringing them on, and then getting them on the ropes, like, that's gonna cost even more money. Like, the development time, it's all just adding up in dollars. So, like, from Sony's point of view, can you get a tax write-off, or do you try and make a profit from it? And I think in the current landscape of live service games, and we don't even know if it was going to be free to play or premium. We don't even know what the game bloody was. We just knew there was, hipsters covered in neon lights, doing Watch Dogs Legion looking things, right? That's it. That's all we know. It's a PvP VE heist game. Ooh.
Well, they already have that. They already have that with Payback, right? Like, Payback has had 3 of them. They're working on a 4th one, from what we understand. And yeah, apologies, folks. I had to take that call, so I'm back, and I may have to step away for a second. Again, it's some personal stuff going on, but we're good. You know what? Okami13_ made a great post. And of course, I will add his post to the show notes if you want to see for yourself. This is why there's concern for fair games. And this is why it's a two-tiered conversation. Obviously, the success of Helldivers 2 is why we open up the show, because that's exciting, especially if you're someone like me who's playing it, who's absolutely loving it. I bought it on PlayStation gladly, and I bought it on Xbox, and whatever DLC, you know, I like day one of Helldivers on Xbox, I spent $30. You know, get the the coins. I don't even know what the heck they're called, so I could buy a couple of pieces of armor. I mean, that's what these games are made to do. But fair games is the other side of the coin, where I think we are a few days, maybe even a week or so away from an announcement, because this story broke over the weekend. Sony's going to have to respond. And the story that we're talking about is obviously the Fair Games director, Daniel Drapeau, I believe it is, has left Haven Studios. But he didn't just leave, ladies and gentlemen. He left in May. No one reported that, right? That was around the time of course, Jade Raymond, founder and former CEO of the company, who also left in May. So we knew about Jade, but we didn't know about him, right? So the director of the game is gone. The game has been nowhere to be found, gentlemen. And obviously, this got announced alongside Marathon, and we have yet to see anything. So again, what you heard from Umbra and what you just heard from Jamie, this is the second half of the coin that Sony does not want to continue to see. This is why this cancellation, and it's imminent, folks. How soon, I don't know, but it is imminent, because everyone that was left that was important to this game has left the studio. Now we haven't heard of anybody taking up the mantle for Jade Raymond or Daniel, right? There's been no reports on that, which means that the game is probably DOA. So if this game does get canceled, they bought the studio to add to PlayStation Studios, so that's wasted money. They also wasted money on investment into this game. Folks, how do they make that money back after Concord, right? How do they make that money back after the delay of Bungie's game? Bungie's a mess right now, right? So again, this all leads down the path to them bringing more games to Xbox to make money, because some of the stuff that actually they had to cancel cost them millions upon millions. And mind you, if Bungie ultimately fails and Marathon does not hit, even though it gets reworked, that's going to be a $3+ billion investment that Sony is going to lose. Think about that for a second. This all leads to one ultimate ending, and that is more games on Xbox. Sorry. And you know what? I'll buy them all. I'm sure a lot of people in this chat right now will buy them all. But any additional thoughts, Umbra?
Yeah. So, you guys have touched on it, pause, enough, but I will I'll just say there was rumor before. I mean, like I said, the writing was on the wall for this game for so long. I called this well before we saw trouble with Marathon. I thought Fair Games was over with. I said this sometime way back on other podcasts. Like, I don't think Fair Games is going to make it. And Jade Raymond hasn't had the track record she used to have. I think her legend has been exaggerated ever since the Assassin's Creed. That's been her last kind of hurrah of like relevancy. Like ever since that point, people have kind of given her like, oh, well, she just Assassin's Creed. That's been a long time. It's been a while, right? And with her leaving, as she did in May of this year, you had, and he recanted, but Michael Pachter had came out. Is it Pachter? Pachter.
Right? Pachter. Yeah.
Michael Pachter had come out and said that that he had heard that he claimed rather on a podcast that it was closing down, or they were canning the game, but he came back out and recanted it. I don't know if that was him doing it because he didn't really believe it, or if he was asked to do that. Now I'm wondering if he was kind of given like, hey, could you let this,
Can you roll that back a little bit?
roll that back, right? Roll back that beautiful Bing footage, if you will, and let us, let this die down a bit so we can get a nice little Twitter black bold black background lettered because they always give you the black background with the white lettering or whatever to break the news. And I'm wondering if that was possibly the case here, right? So you had Jade leaving, and she's the founder. If you had the founder leaving, I don't think, to me, I thought that was like, it was obvious at that point, like, okay, it's a wrap, right? I already thought it. Well, again, I thought this well before that. I never really had faith in the project to begin with. It looked generic when they first showed it. I was like, nah, that's not what the people want. And listen, I was more favorable to that showcase than PlayStation mainstays. PlayStation mainstays destroyed that show.
Yeah, they hated
They
it.
were not kind. And I thought they would be, they would cap for it. They did not. They were very harsh. They did not like the direction PlayStation was going. Let's chalk that up to old Cookie Man right there, Jim Ryan, because that's his legacy. These black hole games he tried to get out there, that's his legacy. The stuff that came before him, that was Sean Layden's legacy. And right here, this is a failure, and this is why I still maintain that man was let go. I do not believe he just retired. I'm sorry, I don't believe it.
No,
I think they saw what the failure that he had here, and it was like, listen, we can do this the easy way. How they gave him the old Godfather, right? Like, I feel like they kind of pulled him aside and say, yo, we're gonna have to get you out of here. And they did it an honorable route by retiring him, right? That's my thinking. But just to say, so you had her leaving earlier this year. Now you got Daniel, was it Drapeau? He jumped ship and he went to WB.
Yes, he did.
He went to Montreal, right? Yeah.
Yep.
So we'll see him possibly on the next Batman game or something like that. Like, he got with it while the good was good. So that's two gigantic losses right there. How do you recover that? Now, that's not to say that Sony couldn't be like, yeah, we're going to put somebody on here to right this ship, right? They paid money for this studio. They've paid money for the development of this game. Although it was in development before they purchased them, they still have to put some money into it.
Of course.
And it's been in development after they got them. That's a lot of loss, right? And their track record for live service, as we all know, has been trash. Concord flopped. What was it, 2 weeks?
11 days, I think. It wasn't even 2 weeks.
Yeah, not even a full 2 weeks. We all saw that too. Everybody called it. You got The Last of Us Online shut down by all
Bungie.
people, Bungie,
Yeah,
of all studios. And now Bungie, of course, having major troubles when and more tacked on from Marathon, where they were stealing art, or the person that involved was stealing art from other projects and another creator. It's been tough, man. It's been tough. And also, listen, we don't even talk about this, but then you also have the Spider-Man, like Spider-Verse kind of game.
that game looked dope, dude.
It did.
Yeah, that was in the Insomniac leaks. That looked dope.
Yeah, the Insomniac leak showed us, and they were like, "Oh, it wasn't feasible." Whatever they tried to come up with, I forgot what their claim was, but it looked like that could have been a hit for them.
They were saying that it was going to be too expensive or too not cost effective to keep the service running on a game like that, which is ridiculous.
I don't know how they thought. I think they need to go back to the drawing board and reconsider. I think they could. I think that's a landmine right there, a gold mine, should I say, for them. I think that could have been, if they put the money on it properly and build it up like a Spider-Verse kind of thing with all the different Spider-Men and women that you can actually play, that could be big. And especially if you put it in multi-plat, like that could be the black hole game they want, in my opinion. But so Sony's had a terrible track record with live service. And again, like you guys mentioned, that's millions upon millions of dollars. Hell, that's billions of dollars, actually. Yeah. And I'm talking about because of Bungie, right? Bungie now, they're under the I don't want to say threat, but they're under the concern of being folded from Bungie and closing down Bungie proper and just putting them on, select developers or whatever on different projects within Sony proper, right? Into different studios. That's the danger they're in now. Right. So that is the worry there. And what better way for them to try to recoup that loss than what we are seeing now with them bringing games to Xbox now? So I think Sony has kind of, regardless of whether Totoki and the shareholders wanted to do this, they've been kind of forced into it, right? They've been kind of forced to bend the knee, so to speak. And so with the failure of all these live service games they had and the ones they even canceled, yeah, I think, I'm not saying this to be like, oh, Sony's in dire straits. I hope nobody takes that. Listen to this former bot is saying here. I'm not trying to make it like they're in dire straits, but we cannot ignore the reality that Sony has made some terrible investments and they've cost them. It's cost them a lot. And Sony is no Microsoft. They don't have just $1 million or $2 million sitting under their couch pillow under there somewhere. Like, oh, look at this. Let's go buy something. Like, they don't have that. Microsoft has that. Microsoft can afford to have a failure here and there, as we saw in the 360 generation. The Red Rings of Doom, that was a major heavy hit for them, but they sustained it because they had the money to do so. That could have buried anyone else, right? That would have buried them if they had that type of financial loss of the Red Rings of Death and having to reimburse people and pay for those things. So Microsoft has the money to do it. I don't think Sony does, or at least they wouldn't want to. So that's the problem. But Sony is also, I believe, I don't want to say largely, but they also have a large reliance on Sony games, right, for the PlayStation. So it's different for them. So what better way than to make sure they ensure their future by getting their games on more platforms than just Sony itself. And so that's why I say, like, the changes that Microsoft tends to be kind of in the forefront when it comes to making these moves, right? Sometimes it backfires on them. We saw it in the Xbox One generation, right? The whole DRM thing, the whole game sharing plans they originally had, like, it was better than
camera in the box. They did a real big 180.
They did. And Sony was right there about to do the same until they said, let's see what Microsoft does. Boo. Okay, let's not do that. So like, Microsoft typically leads, be it good or bad. Sony typically kind of follows. And I'm not saying that to diminish them. I'm just being honest. And I'm not saying it's bad. It's kind of smart. But that being said, Microsoft led the way here for taking their games multi-platform. Now, they may have been kind of forced into that because they weren't getting the sales they needed, but they still led into that. And now it seems to me that Sony is going to follow suit. And it might be beneficial for them.
Yeah.
And I think for that reason, gamers like we did here on Xbox, we had to get over that thought of, well, exclusives. Yeah, but this doesn't feel right. And it still does feel weird. I'm not going to act like seeing Gears on PlayStation is not weird. It's odd, right? We're not used to that. I'm not going to act like when Halo go over there, I won't be looking at some of these PlayStation gamers like, you better treat Chief right. I'm going to be looking at them kind of strange. Don't you mistreat him over there. But and save those Marines while you're at it too. Like, I'm weird like that, by the way. When I play, I have to save all the Marines. But but my thing is like, it's odd for that. And the PlayStation gamers, much like Xbox gamers, are going to have their time where they get over having their games everywhere. It's just what it is. And I don't know when that day and date will happen. I have surmised and theorized that I believe by the end of next gen, day and date will be a thing for PlayStation on PC. That's my belief.
Think it has to. I think they're leaving money on the table by not doing it. Because again, some of the games that they had come over, some of their biggest and most popular IP on PlayStation 4 and 5 at the time, when they finally came over to PC, they did okay. But at that time, a lot of people had already played these games. If you get day and date, and I don't think you're ever going to get day and date on Xbox. I just don't, folks. But on PC's a totally different story. If they do day and date on PC, which is why they have Nexus, and it is a big game like Helldivers is a perfect example of that success. And I think, again, this is one of those situations where Helldivers 2 and its success is going to not only change some of the ideologies of some of the old guard that is no longer there at Sony. Look what happened. They sold, I think they're up to about 18 million copies of this game sold. That is freaking phenomenal, right? And that is including what just got moved on Xbox. How many on PlayStation? The only number I was able to find, folks, is 2.2 million. The majority of people that bought Helldivers 2 was on PC, right? And that right there, that success is a great indicator to why Sony needs to go day and date with their games, meaning that they're released on PlayStation 5 and Pro, and of course on PC, and they'll get a bunch of money from both platforms. The Xbox, if they decide to bring something like a new game over, it's probably going to be a year later, maybe even more, right? Like, we don't know what's going to happen, but I am going to say that the success of this one game is going to force Sony, and I'm not saying that anyone's forcing them, but their shareholders are going to want exactly what's happening with Xbox. They see the numbers, ladies and gentlemen. They see exactly what's happening. Xbox is eating PlayStation's lunch for a couple of reasons. One, they have an abundance of games that are on their store right now. Also, PlayStation doesn't have any first-party games of their own, right? It's been very dry, and it's probably going to be dry for the next couple of years until they shift back into making these single-player bangers. Sorry, the Jim Ryan kind of really screwed up what was going on at PlayStation Studios.
They got a state of play coming up right now.
Yeah, and it's just James Bond,
007, right?
Yeah, it's not
which
even
is
their
also
game
on Xbox and everything else, right?
Yeah,
so like that if that any indicator about their first party plans as far as first party games, that should be, I would think that would be a slight concern even after all this time for Sony gamers. Like, okay, yeah, they don't have any. There's no Xbox gives you, and we've seen it for a while now. They'll give you a roadmap of what to expect. Sony hasn't had that really in a long time.
Many years.
Right,
Yeah.
like you'll see some games that you can point out, like, okay, yeah, we know that Yote is coming. We know that eventually, we don't know when, but we know that Intergalactic is coming, right? We know Wolverine, whenever that may ever be, is eventually landing. But will that be multi-plat by that point? Like there's no certainty in a lot of this right here for Sony. It's kind of different right now. It's a different landscape for them. So we'll see how it lands, but I expect them to start changing the design of where they put their games sooner rather than later. I don't think it'll be the 2-year wait anymore. I think it'll start being 6 months at most.
I actually don't think Sony can afford to actually do that because they need games to hit, and they need games to hit now. They don't need games to be resurgent years later, because at that point, what's the point of it, right? They want to strike while the iron's hot. And I do think that Helldivers is going to force Sony to change. Jamie, any additional context before we get to the super chats and we get to our last topic? Because I did a search. Now, we all heard that Concord ultimately cost Sony $400 million, right, over the course of the 7 years that it was in development, right? And then it was this $1.2 billion loss conversation happening right now. Again, that's unsubstantiated because that's just a rumor. But when you take something like Concord, you take something like FAIRGAMES, which ultimately it seems like it's going to be canceled. You take the delay of Bungie's Marathon, and then of course you take all of these other games that were in some form or factor of pre-development, right? Whether that be storyboarding, whether that be art assets, whether that be story writing, whether that be actual games like the rumored Twisted Metal game that was canceled, or the rumored military shooter, you might as well just come out and say it, it was SOCOM, that was canceled. And you just go down the list of how many cancellations. These are millions upon millions of dollars. And then you see something like Helldivers 2 come out. And again, folks, this is not console warring. This is for context. As it stands, Spider-Man 2018 was $315 million to make. It's a lot of money, right? Game is phenomenal. And a lot of people will fight me on that. That's fine. Fight me. I loved it. I didn't beat it, but it's listen, I like Insomniac and I like Spider-Man. But Helldivers had $100 million budget and sold more copies and is now selling even more copies because it's on Xbox than Spider-Man 2. A 3-to-1 ratio on development time. It's $215 million more to make Spider-Man 2 that sold less than Helldivers. All of these numbers that people fail to accept or want to talk about are why Spider-Man, Days Gone, Returnal, and many others are coming to Xbox. But FAIRGAMES is just a potential another failure in the cap of failures for Sony. Let's get your final thoughts, and before we move on.
I don't like to do this, but I'm going to do it. There's someone in your chat that constantly keeps saying that we're spreading misinformation. And I want to quickly mention this. So earlier on the show, I said that, Spider-Man is sitting on a hard drive or server somewhere, right? This person is saying that I'm spreading misinformation and that it's not sitting on a server somewhere. It's selling. Do people, this is the problem with fanboys. They take everything in a literal sense, right? They don't think, oh yeah, humans use these things called analogies, right? People just talking like people. Umbo was talking about how Sony didn't have 1 or 2 million underneath the couch cushions, to help with Concord and that. And this person writes, I think Sony has 1 or 2 million in their couch cushions, but they don't have 1 or 2 billion like Microsoft. That's how it should have went. He wasn't being literal about Sony looking under the couch for a couple of, spare million. People that cover gaming, everyone uses analogies, and saying that people are spreading misinformation because you don't understand how analogies work, that's kind of sad. Anyway,
thank you for that, Jamie. I didn't even notice that, but I didn't mean.
I
that
saw
literally.
it. I unfortunately, when I see stuff like that, I don't want to embarrass anybody because everyone gets in their feelings over a black, this box or that box or this box. It's fine. I mean, look, the truth of the matter is the numbers are there. They don't lie. You can have your feelings, but the truth is that Sony is in a bit of a tailspin. To say otherwise is putting your head in the sand, right? They have a state of play, and that state of play is state of 007. There's no first-party stuff there. It's a 30-minute presentation of 007, a third-party game that obviously they're paying for. That's not what PlayStation gamers are looking for, ladies and gentlemen. And I think the person in the chat that is high on that either doesn't understand it or refuses to understand it. The thing is this: we're not being console warry here. Everything that we said today are literal facts. They're not suggestions. The only suggestion is we think FAIRGAMES is going to get canceled in the next couple of weeks. And I say that with confidence, not because I heard anything, because the story broke over the weekend that the games director is gone. And he isn't just gone like yesterday. He was gone since May. So you have the founder, you have the director, and you have nothing since. What does that say to you? That says that game is pretty much DOA, especially because it is a clone of a game that's already had a trilogy. And that, of course, is a bank-robbing game that we've all seen and played with people wearing clown masks. And you can also say that it's a little bit of a samey kind of game to what goes on in GTA Online. So does anyone want to play FAIRGAMES? The answer is probably no. I mean, that's, sorry if that hurts anybody's feelings, but that's the facts. I don't know.
But, I'll get back to my point quickly. I want to mention this because, we just talked about video games, and I say this all the time. People saying you're spreading misinformation just because people talking like humans. Come on, And I'll mention this one thing before I move on. For your information, Infinite, I am not a fanboy. No. But because you said that means it's true. Okay, right. So,
also, I don't think I even said that, did I?
No.
I don't think I called him anything.
But we'll move on. FAIRGAMES. Look, we haven't seen any footage of it. We don't know what it looks like. It could look amazing. It could play amazing. But honestly, I think a lot of people are getting live service fatigue.
Yes,
right?
I agree.
How many people that play live service games play a lot of them, right? I play one. I play Warzone. That's it, right? And I play maybe 2 hours a week, maybe. But most people that play live service games, they aren't looking to play the next hot thing. They want to play the game they love, the game they play with their friends, right? So if these new live service games are being announced every 5 seconds, right? Who's going to play them? New players, people coming into the gaming. Okay, is it free to play? We don't know. Like, there's a ton of different metrics we don't even know about, which would help, factor in what we're talking about, but they haven't showed anything, right?
Yeah.
It could be the best game ever, but then again, you've had really good games come out in the past, and they haven't sold well.
Right.
It just happens, But like Sony, they've had a really bad track record getting these live service games out, and the whole marathon situation is a bit messy. But like the writers on the wall, it doesn't look good, right? Microsoft, they put out amazing games, but they've had a lot of mishaps,
Sure
a
they
lot
have.
of them.
Yeah.
And like, if you can acknowledge that, then that's cool, right? But some people just can't, right? I hope the game's cool. I hope they have a cool concept. But like, when I hear PvPvE, heist game, right? I roll my eyes into the back of my head thinking, why couldn't have this been a single player game? I don't want to play a live service game with sweats. I don't want to play a game where I have to get on at like 8 p.m. or at a certain time to play with X amount of people to do certain missions by the end of the week. I don't want to do that. I don't like doing that with video games in general. Like, I play a Warzone, I get my battle pass done, and I'm done, right? I'm done. I play 1 or 2 matches afterwards. I think people are getting tired of live service games. If you look at the Jeff Keighley showcase last week or whatever it was, right? Every single other game was basically a live service game or a free to play waifu game, right? And it just seems to be getting a lot of these now. I think people have just kind of had enough. Maybe Sony have seen the metrics and they don't think it's going to do well. But hey, we'll find out, because a game that's been in development for 5 years, we're about to hear something soon.
Well, it's only a matter of time. And again, it's I think the writing's on the wall. When you start to see everyone leave the studio, including the founder. And I know people are like, oh, Jade, Raymond, she leaves. She goes from one game to the other. Yeah, I get it. She has a track history. But the also added to that track history is the fact that when she left those projects died.
Like, let's be clear. Her claim to fame is the Assassin's Creed series. That's it.
Yes. Yep.
She went to Motive. When she went to
Stadia.
Amazon Games, was it? Stadia. That's it. She went to Stadia, and then nothing really materialized out of that. And now she went here to found Motive, and now they're about to go under with FAIRGAMES. She left them. She's the founder. What I don't understand what we said that was incorrect. She has her single claim to fame is Assassin's Creed, I believe 1.
Yeah.
How long ago was that?
2007.
2007. I was just about to say it. Like, was it 2007? Thank you, Jamie. I'm trying to figure out what our brother here is complaining about, because we didn't misrepresent her. She had one singular game that was really her claim to fame. Right. Everything else she hasn't really had materialized. Nothing else really materialized. That's her single claim to fame. And with her leaving this studio like that, in no case and situation would somebody who founded something leaving the entire studio be a sign of positivity. So, I don't want to. Oh, okay, he apologized. He said, he said for calling him a fanboy. Okay. I don't know if you are or not, brother. I don't really care. I don't necessarily think there's anything wrong with being a fanboy. Just to put that out there, I think it's how far you take it being a fanboy that matters. You can be you can be a fanboy of whatever. That don't take that, because I think people have taken, the fanboy, that means you're bad. No, not to me, at least. I think we're all fanboys of something. It's just how far do you take it? Do you take it to the point of being nasty toward people, right? We have some of our Hoove brothers who I've upgraded to Hooved hooligans, for instance. Like, some of them are bad. Some of them are mean and mean-spirited and nasty. But some are just regular people who enjoy their PlayStation. I have no problem with that, right? Just like you got Xbox guys who just love their Xbox and don't care for PlayStation. I have no problem with that. It's how you treat other people, though. And I'm seeing responses to you in the chat where people are like, they're feeling a way about you. So you must have rubbed people the wrong way. I would just say, kind of check yourself, because not all these people are going to be saying it's about you collectively. If you have been,
this is a very welcoming chat. Let's be realistic here. We have a lot of people in this chat that come into the chat for Infinite Umbra and Jamie Moran, for that matter, and we're all I would say a good portion of the people here are just fans. They talk about gaming. They're excited to play games. We have open-ended conversations. Sometimes it's pointed. Today was a little pointed, but it wasn't pointed in a way where we're trying to drive a narrative. A perfect example is we have here from Killer Blue. He says it wasn't information when they said us Xbox gamers don't buy games though. Helldivers receipts. I mean, Umber said it. How many narratives have Xbox players have had in the last year? And again, I've said this before, no matter what Xbox does, they consistently get clowned by the media. And we have another story we're going to get into in a second after I get to the super chats. That is a perfect example of mismanagement of the website and, trying to, put a narrative out there that might be, more than just an opinion. We'll get to that in a second. But gentlemen, chat, great first two topics. Again, if you liked it, hit the thumbs up. If you didn't, hit the thumbs down. Engagement is engagement, one way or the other. But let me catch up on super chats, and we will get right into that WCCF Tech article, which I have already added to the show notes, and you should check it out if you want to believe their rhetoric. And I don't think you should, because it sounds like a lot of hogwash and thought and theories from a PlayStation fan. We're going to get into that in a second. Dave Reezy drops our very first super chat of the day. He drops, ladies and gentlemen, a very generous $2 super chat. He has been overdosing on cups of Liberty all week. Yeah, I mean, when I'm done here, I'm getting right on the couch and I'm playing at least for a couple hours. I got to pick up Mrs. Boom from work until 4, and I'm getting my Liberty in as well.
You know what, Boom? If you got a free slot, let a brother jump in. Yeah,
absolutely. I'll send you an invite. We will definitely get down, because I'll
get a match in and then hit the bed. That's what I'll do.
Yeah. Well, again, if you're going to be up later on, I'm going to be up tonight after 10 playing, because again, it's just I'm addicted to this game like bad, really bad. Eris_EMS, one of our generous friends of the program, folks. He has gifted 10 double barrel gaming memberships, brother. He has done it actually so many times I have lost count. That is incredibly generous of you. Thank you so much for the support. Mrs. Boom and I do truly and honestly appreciate it. Folks, if you did get a sub from Eris_EMS, please thank this gentleman in the chat. I would greatly appreciate it. I'm sure he would as well. We have a member of 11 months, Music 72. Music, great to see you here, brother. He says, GG to all of those who gifted memberships. Boom, appreciates it very much. That's very kind of you to say. And yes, we do. Again, we don't expect anything. We honestly don't. Whatever we get, we are always surprised and thankful, which is why we do the big giveaways that we do, because again, it's just our way of paying it forward for everyone being so generous to us. Nino Vestic, not to be outdone, who has done this pretty much every show that we have, he has gifted one Double Barrel Gaming, our generous friend all the way from Hawaii. I got a chance to hang out with him, play some Helldivers, and drink that sweet Liberty. It was a lot of fun. And again, I played with about, I want to say 10 or 15 people from the community. It was awesome. Again, teams of 4. Again, Will, the broke boy insider, man, that poor man, he keeps getting, I think he's going to have to sit down and talk to somebody, because he keeps getting clipped by these bulldogs. Again, I run, because the thing follows you, and it's when there's a bug in front of you, it's going to shoot the laser, and if you're there, you're gonna hear my leg for the Liberty, my legs, and just spend. I was in tears, like crying, laughing.
That's hilarious, but it's a pro tip I gotta say, and even your laser will hit you too if you're not careful.
It has killed me. My own laser has killed me. Yes. Yep.
Get a shield. If somebody else on your team has that laser, have a shield ready.
Oh, nice. Okay, excellent. I'm about to hit level 12. If I had one complaint for Helldivers 2, it's the medals. They're very sparse on how they give them out, and you need those medals to buy gear. But the other thing is the leveling up is so GD slow. Oh my God. It's so slow. And again, I'm playing on medium. I can't imagine going any higher than that, at least with the gear that I have. I mean, we've seen, Nino got some really good gear. Let's see who else is but there was a bunch of people I played with that had they would throw like like one of their launchers, and it would just light up the entire freaking map. Like it's like, wow, how the hell did they get that?
My build on PlayStation. That's why I wish they had cross progression, because on PlayStation I put a good amount of hours into it, so I have a decently leveled up character. I got a lot of good stuff. But on Steam, I'm like 9 hours in. I don't have a lot. I'm like, okay, now I'm feeling kind of empty out here now.
Yeah, especially when they have events where they give you advanced gear that you can drop with. Like for instance, the guard dog, it's called. He calls it the bulldog, but the guard dog is that laser that follows you. You don't unlock it until level 10. I had it at level 7, and because it was an event that like, oh, we're giving you this for 24 hours, and they do that with like the Tesla towers, folks. Don't get them. The Tesla towers murdered our entire squad. We threw 2 of them down. We all got close. We all got electrocuted, and pieces roll over the place. It wasn't good. I think I actually have it recorded. Hilarious, in the worst way possible. But Nightwolf, who I got a chance to hang with also and drink some Liberty. Nightwolf 3186 drops a very generous $5 super chat. He says, just asking, but how many of you hum the Helldivers 2 theme when not playing? Hit the like button and put a 1 in the chat if you do. Listen, I'm not gonna lie, I found myself humming that stupid song. I mean, like, look, games get me like they do Umbra. Like they just, I'm waking up in the last 4 days since this game has come out, folks. I have been up. I go to sleep at 10 when Mrs. Boom, and I get up, and something is in my sleep. I'm thinking about this game, and I'll get up like 1 o'clock, and I'm like, man, I could probably get an hour. And I wound up being there for like 2 or 3 hours. I'm going back to sleep at 3 o'clock. I'm an old man. I can't do this anymore. But somehow, some way, I'm going to continue to do it. It's just so much fun.
You know what it is, right? You know what it is? Your inherent need for democracy.
That's right. Yes, democracy. Which, by the way, I gotta get some new emotes. I see one of the guys does the shooting, and I have the one that just goes like this. It's so boring. I gotta get some new emotes for sure.
I think I had the one where you put like, what was the one I had? The hug, and the one
I like the hug. Actually, I hugged someone after they threw a bomb. It was like coming out of a commercial. Like he threw the for the Jets, and he was this. We did the hug, and the big explosion behind us. It's freaking awesome, man.
You gotta do it. They also have, I think, the 5, like the Arnold Schwarzenegger and what's my man's name?
Let's say Apollo Creed, but
I was gonna say Action Jackson, but yeah, you get it.
Yeah.
I don't forget this brother's name. I feel salty that I don't remember his name right now, but yeah, I think you can kind of do that on that too. It's
yes, with the big arms from Predator. Yes, absolutely. That's I like that. I got to get some new emotes, but thank you for the generosity, Nightwolf. We also have Gamer by Choice drops a very generous $5 super chat. He says casuals don't care about first party output. I think Sony is happy just being the popular console for third party sales, with first party being secondary. You know what's interesting? First party used to be like paramount for them. And it's because they were putting out a lot of really great games. And I know people are going to push back on what I'm saying. And I get it if you don't like those types of games, but I do. I like Sony's first-party games because they're movie quality-like games. I like the way the graphics are. I like the way the stories are told. I like that they're adult-themed. I like all of that, which is why I have a PlayStation. They just haven't been doing that recently. And they will eventually get back to it. I just don't think we'll ever see another 2017, 18, and 19 again, or an 18, 19, and 20 again. I just don't think those days of 3 bangers per year, 4 bangers potentially. Like, could you imagine in 1 year you got Spider-Man 2018 and God of War 2018? That is pretty freaking awesome. I don't think you're going to see that. I just don't. We have Will, the Broke Boy Insider, says, told you I'm changing the name to the Pitbull. Nice to look at and fun to watch, but still, in the end, it's going to bite you in the ass. And he is not wrong, ladies and gentlemen. But listen, let's get to this missing information story from WCCF Tech. And of course, in the picture, it has the Xbox Series X and the Black Edition of the PlayStation 5 Pro. It says gaming. Xbox next well, the Xbox Next may cost twice as much as the PlayStation 6 due to the Magnus APU and third-party store support. And in this tweet, ladies and gentlemen, from, again, the official WCCF Tech Twitter account, it says, the Xbox Next Generation system could cost significantly more than the PlayStation 6 due to the Magnus APU and the potential of support of third-party stores that would deprive Microsoft of the 30% cut on every game sold on the system. Oh no, Doom and Gloom, ladies and gentlemen, look out. Misinformation by the press, but no one looks at this as misinformation. Everyone's probably, who's a Sony fan, applauding this. Look, folks, let's be real for a second, okay? Sony PlayStation is the most popular brand, and we know that because it's number 7 in the most recognizable brands in the top 10. They didn't get there by accident. Sony has been doing this consistently since the PlayStation 1. Now, whether you agree or you don't, that's fine, but I'm going to give credit where credit is due. The casual audience, which equates for about 85%, buy PlayStations. The hardcore, which I'm giving extra credit to, equates to about 15%. It's probably less than, I would even dare say, half of that. I'd probably say about 8% of the populace are the hardcore, right? But the majority, 88%, 89%, and 92% maybe, are casuals. And it's the most popular box. That's why people buy it. Well, folks, let's keep it a buck, as the kids like to say. If the PlayStation 5 Pro and their other consoles just saw a $50 increase in 2025, how does anyone with a brain that is secured correctly in your head think that this next box, the PlayStation 6, the Pro, or the handheld, whatever of the 3 SKUs is going to come out in potentially 27 or even 2028, is going to cost $500? If you do think that, then I have a bridge to sell you. Just give me your bank account number and send that money on over. I'll send the bridge over immediately through FedEx, because that is not what's going to happen, ladies and gentlemen. So this story is ridiculous on itself. Yes. Is the next Xbox going to cost probably $900? Yeah, I would imagine it could be. And the reason why that is because both or all of these companies, I say both, all of these companies are no longer, Umbra, taking losses up front for hardware. Those days are done. The days of PlayStation potentially losing upwards of $200 per console, or Xbox losing maybe $200 per console, those days are gone. The people like us who want to play these new systems are going to pay. They're all going to be $800, $900, maybe even $1,000. Right now, this is why I like the approach of the way Xbox is doing it, because if they do go the OEM way, and the OEM is meaning that you're going to get a console that is an Xbox that says Xbox on it, but it's going to have another logo, whether that be Lenovo, whether that be Alienware, Asus, Dell. Pick your favorite company. That company might be on the next Xbox because it's going to be an OEM device. And those OEM devices, Umbra, are potentially launching next year. And I again, I don't have this on confirmed authority, but it just makes sense. They have a partnership with Asus, who has a pair of consoles coming out next month. I would imagine that the first OEM device that is going to rock a Xbox logo that's not made by Microsoft is probably going to be Asus, and that is coming next year. That box could potentially be $600, $700, $800, I'm thinking $900, because it's going to be a monster machine. And the more powerful these consoles get, the more expensive they're going to get. So again, just going back to the story, I find it to be reckless at best to even suggest that the next Xbox is going to potentially cost twice as much as the PlayStation 6. So if the PlayStation 5 Pro is nearly $800 after tax, what do you think the PlayStation 6 is going to be? $500? Come on, folks. Grow up and stop with the nonsense. This is the ridiculous story. And again, this people in the chat that said we were spreading misinformation, and I don't want to single out anybody, so I say people as everybody under the umbrella. Come on. If there's any misinformation being spread, it's right there in front of you by not podcasters, a professional journalist. But let's get your thoughts on this, man.
So the thought that, and I keep saying this, and it's, to me, I said this way back when we saw the Pro price. When the Pro was $700 announced initially, it was like, well, next gen is going to be at least $700 starting, right? I don't think that Sony is looking to subsidize that cost. Microsoft has already come out saying they won't. So what then do we have? 700 and up that we have to be looking for. The handheld devices that you spoke of a second ago, we're already seeing supposed pricing of $899, $99, $900, right, for the ROG Ally X. To think that right there, even with a Z2 Extreme, is going to be more costly than the next Xbox, I think it's a pipe dream. I think people are going to have to start. If anything, I would suggest anybody in the chat or anyone hearing this voice of mine, you would start putting some money aside right now. Get past that myth of, well, typically it's $599 at the breaking point and $499. Like, yeah, that's the old regime. Now it's changed, and that's for both PlayStation and Xbox. In my view, in my opinion, I see no real way that Sony is going to try to subsidize. Microsoft can afford to, but will they want to?
Nope.
Mind you, I believe this may be their last gen with their own box, right? And I say that because, as you were just mentioning, third-party OEMs probably will fill that space. And to argue about, like, well, it's not really an Xbox. Well, what do you value as an Xbox? Does it have the OS? Does it have everything available that you would get on a typical Xbox? Yeah, okay, then it's an Xbox. I wouldn't get hung up on that. And I think it's clear Microsoft is kind of moving us forward and moving gaming forward to a closer, I guess, a closer relationship to PC gaming, right? That's where it leads to me. It seems where Sony and Microsoft are headed, especially Microsoft, especially with the shared storefronts being a part of the next gen Xbox. It shows that they're moving toward that end, right? So to that end, the rumors from people like Kepler L2, they're saying that there's going to be a very high performant Xbox.
Yes.
Modular, Windows OS, obviously, kind of hybrid PC. That's why I came up with the name, the Xbox Fusion, for the next Xbox. That's my name for it. I believe that might work out. We'll see.
I like it.
Thank you. I thought I was pretty clever for that. But so I feel like, with that being the case, rather, with it being such a high performing, SKU, I don't think that they're going to skimp out on quality for that. We've had Sarah Bond and everybody come out like, oh, it's going to be the most technically, what you should put, the biggest tech leap we've ever had, et cetera, et cetera. I expect it to be costly, but reasonably costly, right? The problem is we do have the tariffs situation, so we don't know how that might affect things too. But I fully expect it to be in that 900 range, I would say. If I'm looking at the handheld, I would expect the console would have to be within that range. Same for Sony. So if anybody's on Sony's side thinking, oh, Sony will be cheaper, I think you all have to get out of that mindset of the traditional pricing range for what we're going to. Where we're going, I think it's kind of uncharted ground right now. I think they're going to a different way. And Microsoft has shown, by the way, I just want to throw this out there. Microsoft has shown ways to help ingratiate themselves to people who might not have that money up front. Remember, they had that leasing thing you could do where you can buy it.
And they may bring that back. I mean, that's a great point, dude. That's a phenomenal point. Yep.
Thank you. And I feel like that's one way they could go about doing it. Maybe start a I hate to say it this way, but a layaway plan, so to speak. I know people are probably like, oh, layaway. Yeah, we're not all rich, y'all. I'm sorry.
They have programs like Affirm, for instance, is one that lets you take a 12-month, package, and you pay a couple of bucks a month. Like maybe if the console was $1,000, you probably wound up paying like $100 a month. But $100 a month to get the console up front is not bad, and that's exactly the route that you're suggesting. And you know what? Xbox already did that, where they included 2 years of Game Pass in there as well. So,
and I would say since this is going to be more costly even than what they did with the Xbox Series X, obviously, started early, a year before the console comes out. That way people can be prepared. They can get enroll into it, pay it off by that point. I think that could work. I think Sony should do the same. And that would be a way to negate the thought of here's this money up front, especially in the economy we have going on right now. It's likely to get worse. Yeah, if you want to, to make that easy for the consumer, I think that would be the smart way to do it. But I think we're moving toward a more PC hybrid centric kind of gen. I really do. I honestly believe it. I think everything will be heard about the next Xbox points directly to that, and Sony is not going to be far behind. So people need to understand that. I don't know if they'll have the storefronts on it. I wouldn't doubt that they would. I'm pretty sure they will, right? They might just have the storefronts too, but Sony is less dependent on the storefronts than Microsoft, obviously, because there's been games that will skip the platform, right? But so now that won't be a case. Now that we will give on Xbox, you get everything.
Every game will be on Xbox one way or another, whether through Xbox or Steam.
Yeah, and now there's been rumors again that Kepler L2 guy suggested, and I don't believe this one bit, because I remember some of our Hoove brothers who were like, "Oh, well, the PS5 Pro is the equivalent of a 4090." It's like, what world are you in right now? And
just ask a Snake Eater, Metal Gear Solid remake.
All right. And other games, right?
Yeah.
But so the claim is the performance could be comparable to a RTX 5080. I don't believe that one bit. 5080 is a monster, and I just don't see it. And the PS6, excuse me, is rumored to be like a 9070 XT, I guess XTX or whatever. No, I just don't see that being the case. But it's going to be costly. I just don't think they're going to subsidize the cost of these next gen consoles. So I would say maybe start getting some money put aside, and I would hope that Microsoft and Sony both kind of again start some type of payment plan where people can pay into it, a month or whatever, and get it paid off by the time those consoles launch. I think that would be one of the smartest things. Everybody could possibly do that. You have much more of a reach of people that could pay into something to pay it off versus having up cash up front.
Or trading in your old stuff and see whether or not GameStop is even around at that point. It's going to be very interesting to see. But you know what's even more interesting than that, right? Is some of the stuff that came out in the last week or so. So, Jamie, I want to bring you in because there was a running rumor that the PlayStation 6 is going to have 3 SKUs potentially, right? There is the PlayStation 6 monster console. There is an S version of the PlayStation 6, which the Series S was panned and continues to get panned by the PlayStation community, but Sony's doing it, so thumbs up, right? And a rumored new handheld. Again, folks, these are all rumors. So 3 SKUs, not 2, but 3. Now, Xbox, on the other hand, is expected in 2027 to have a box under the TV, which could cost upwards of $900. And again, folks, rumors, a dockable handheld, which was going to be their S version, something that Sony is going to be copying like they've copied many times before. Folks, there is a reason why both of these companies are looking to bring in an S version of their new tech. Why? Because the new tech is going to cost a lot of money. And again, how much? I mean, it's an opinion, folks. We all on this panel think, Jamie, that the next Xbox, the next PlayStation is probably going to cost $800 at minimum. It might even be more. Shout out to Aris_EMS. He said in the chat earlier that considering that that some of the chipsets are $1,000 right now, if you want to buy a really good video card, it's $1,000 just for the card. A $900 box is not a bad price. It's not priced bad, and he's not wrong. I want to get your thoughts on the potential of the next Xbox being twice as much as the next PlayStation 6. Again, just so ridiculous. And again, this is a perfect example of misinformation and sensational journalism at its absolute finest. Let's get your thoughts, man.
You know, I absolutely love how journalists and, you know, other people that cover game and like talk about this topic. So they'll say, like, you know, the next gen Xbox is going to be twice the price of the next gen, you know, PlayStation 6. But the PlayStation 6 is going to be super powerful. It's going to be able to power a holodeck. It also has a handheld mode, but it only costs, you know, the price of a bag of oranges and a kiss on the cheek. Right? That's what we hear all the time. And for people in chat, I'm not being literal. Look, I think it's a messy situation because, yeah, I do. I think, you know, it's a messy situation because we're in a generation where, you know, Microsoft, they have the Series S out. It's a cheaper console. You know, it's going to be the cheapest way to play GTA. And by the way, every time I mention that, people always reply saying, but I don't want the cheapest way. Well, because I'm not bloody talking to you. But my point is, this generation, the console prices have gone up. And, you know, people will say it's just the tariffs thing. If anyone ever randomly hears like a screeching noise in the middle of the night, that's my eyeballs rolling to the back of my head. Because twice this generation, we've had consoles go up in price, right?
Yes.
The PlayStation 5 went up in the UK and Europe in 2021. It wasn't about tariffs. It's about profit, right?
A year later after launch, dude.
Yeah, a year later. And then Microsoft did later, and then Sony did again, and then Microsoft did again, right? They've both done it twice, right? It has absolutely nothing to do with tariffs. These consoles cost a lot of money. And, you know, back in my day, when you bought a 360 at launch, 2 years later, you could get one for like half the price. Half, right? And we haven't had that this generation. You know, like, I can't remember any other point in time where, oh yeah, hardware goes up in price. That makes no sense, right? So, like, you know, could I say Sony doing the cheaper console? Yeah, because like it's going to be the cheapest entry point, right? Why not? You know, I've never really had a problem with the Series S. You know, these games, these engines, they can scale, right? You have some developers that they still make in games that are optimized for, like, you know, 1080 graphics cards, right? I don't even know when that came out. It's like a decade ago or something. But like, there's games that still work on those graphics cards and they look and perform well. Well, we're gonna have that with consoles, right? You're gonna have the detractors that are like, you know, oh, it's gonna hold back gaming. No, it's not. It really isn't. Like, you know, if you have Black Myth Wukong that can run at 60 frames per second on a Series S, I think we can all calm down for a second. You know, like, I think it's okay, you know, but going with potentially 3 pieces of hardware, I mean, we'll have to see. But like, my theory for Microsoft, this might be controversial. My theory for Microsoft next gen is that they aren't doing a traditional Series S style box. I think, and I still think this, I think they're going to release a main, you know, console powerhouse, and then they're going to release their own, you know, first party handheld. And that will obviously be their quote unquote cheaper or like smaller box, right? Sony doing 3, I can see that happening, you know.
Yep.
Like, I've just seen a couple of minutes ago, Sony just announced PC drivers for their accessories, right? So you can use the wireless earbuds and the headset on PC now with official drivers, right? I think that, you know, Sony, more than anyone, I think they are willing to experiment with like different form factors now, because, like, look, if you had asked me 10 years ago, who's going to enter the handheld market, I would just say Nintendo, right?
Yeah.
I think most people would just say just Nintendo. But then the Steam Deck came out and proved everyone wrong, right? A lot of people are interested in handheld gaming. That's why you have all these different PC manufacturers making their own thing. And, you know, Microsoft, they're going to, I 100% think they're still going to do their own thing. And Sony, they've seen that these things are selling. People like the fact that they're going to be able to take their games on the go. And look, if you're Sony, do you want someone that's buying a Switch so they can play, you know, whatever game on the go, or do you want them to buy your Sony handheld to play games on the go which you buy from their store? That's the way I see it. But doing the cheaper, you know, console, it really makes sense, because, like, look, I think it's disgusting maybe because I'm stuck in the past, but I think it's disgusting that we talked about next gen console prices and it being like $899. I'm not saying that's not what it's going to be. I do think it'll be in that ballpark, but I think that's bloody ridiculous. You know, like I think, you know, this time, like a lot of people have next to no money, you know, that people are still making memes about the price of eggs, you know. Hell, butter in my local Sainsbury's has security tags.
Come
Right?
on.
Yeah. So normally, like things like wine and whiskey have the security tags.
Yeah.
Butter, because it's one of the most expensive things in the shop.
Wow.
Yeah. Lurpak butter. I feel like I'm taking crazy pills, right? Everything's falling apart. The society's falling apart. Maybe it's because I watched The Big Short the other night and I feel like I know a lot about the economy. And I'm making myself sound smarter than I actually am. But Microsoft and Sony, they like money. They're going to charge us way more. They're going to give us different form factor options because, look, if you're a PC gamer, you have a bloody wide range of graphics cards to choose from, right? You have really super expensive ones and you have more affordable ones, right? And if you're on PC, take your bloody pick. It's up to you. On console, like if you're a Microsoft gamer or an Xbox gamer, in the past you've had one box to choose from. If you're Sony, one box to choose from. So, you know, same with Nintendo. I think these companies are realizing, like, wow, we are actually going to charge a lot for these next gen consoles. So maybe we will actually have to give them a cheap option. And yeah, you're going to have some backlash in the, you know, fanboy community for a month or two, but people get over it, right? You know, it is what it is. But like, look, for me, I will always be like the console preference guy, right? I prefer Xbox, I prefer consoles, and like a handheld, a first party handheld does interest me. A smaller console doesn't really interest me that much, but there's a huge market for it. Like hell, when Football Manager came to Xbox, that was basically paired with an Xbox Series S in the UK and a lot of places, right? Because that was a thing that was selling at the time. A lot of people love playing that game on that console. And, you know, there's a lot of avenues for people to play these cheaper games. Like, look, if you play, let's say, free-to-play games, these black hole games, the cheapest console is going to be the Series S at the minute, right? I know there's a lot of people that they buy a Series S and they just play Warzone on it.
Yep.
Right? And, you know, that'll be the same with PlayStation whenever they come out with a cheaper console. It just is what it is. I think the gaming space is evolving, it's changing, and especially console players, we kind of have to just, you know, go with the motions and just deal with it. You know, personally, I think it's interesting that we're going to have multiple different form factors, but you're having these people, especially, you know, journalists, I'm doing air quotes, coming out and saying, like, just outright that the Xbox is going to be twice the price based on absolutely nothing, right?
Yeah, ridiculous.
They can talk about how it's all about licenses and, like, you know, having all these different storefronts. But one, we factually do not know if Microsoft's doing the multiple storefront. They've talked about it tons of times. They've implied, but you're having a journalist come out there and say that the price is going to be double, stating it as a fact, right? That it's going to be double the price because of the storefront. Like, no, it's stupid, right? But we are in that time of year where clickbait is going to get wild. Every time there's new hardware around the corner, and it's crazy to say that there's new hardware around the corner, because this generation's been bloody weird. I think that, you know, people have to just like take a step back and realize these people are clowns, right? They don't know what they're talking about. You know, I've seen people say that the PlayStation 5 Pro was going to be as powerful as a 5080.
Yeah,
right?
ridiculous.
These people that, you know, have a lot of followers, you know, a lot of people pay attention to them, and what came out? Absolutely nothing. Nowhere near that power. You know, it's sad. It's a sad state of affairs that we have these, you know, game journalists. They report rumors as facts, and they don't really label it as such. It's sad, but you know, no, I don't think Microsoft's next console will be twice the price. But I do think Sony would possibly do 3 different pieces of hardware because they've kind of done it in the past. You know, like last generation, they were concurrently selling the PlayStation 4, the PlayStation 4 Slim, and the PlayStation 4 Pro, as well as a VR headset. So I don't think they have a problem with trying to sell multiple pieces of hardware, but that's just my take.
And it's a good take. Again, there is a reason why both platforms are rumored to be coming out with a dockable, less powerful console. How much less? I don't know. But it's certainly not going to be a 5090 power in a handheld. You're just not going to get that for that kind of pricing. But again, this has been a very I think loaded show with information, big opinions. Shout out to the chat. We have over 800 people watching live across Twitter, Twitch, and of course YouTube. A big thank you to everyone that has tuned in. Please, if you are here and you are enjoying the conversation, hit the like button, or in fact, hit the thumbs down button if you didn't enjoy the conversation, because engagement is still engagement. But listen, a big thank you once again, ladies and gentlemen, to the gifted subs by both Aris_EMS and Nino Vestek, who've done that more times than I can remember to count. And a big thank you to all of the super chats that have come in. Mrs. Boom and I do greatly appreciate that. And of course, again, folks, if you're not already subscribed to the channel, we are on the hunt for 17K. Well, how long it takes us to get there is up to you. And you can help us get there by subscribing to the channel. I will be cutting down these conversations that we had into smaller, more digestible videos, which I'll put up later this evening with new thumbnails to, obviously correlate with what we're talking about. And listen, let's get to the outro. We'll start first with Infinite Umbra, who's got to hit the sack because this guy's been up since midnight doing his job. Umbra, let's sell the brand of The Fix, which of course is Thursdays, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where you and Daniel McGee make fun of Nintendo players. Not you, but Daniel makes fun of Nintendo players. But all jokes aside, you have a great show. You guys are coming up on episode 100, sir. We got to talk about that because I will be there with bells on to celebrate that incredible milestone with you and the gang. Talk about it, brother. Where can people subscribe, tune in to the show weekly, and more importantly, follow you on social media?
Yes, sir. Boom. Great show. I am putting it into the chat currently. Hold on one second. Yeah, great show. Thank you all in the chat for holding us down. I'll put in 2 links into the chat here. One is to my S rank no-hit run in Shinobi that I recorded the other day.
That's crazy, dude.
Right now I got like 100 and some odd, with 38 views or so. If you all could check that out and give it a like and maybe a comment if you have time, I would appreciate it. Some have already done so. Thank you all for that. The game is great. Like I said, I'm sharing that because I just love it. And I'm probably going to do a whole series of recordings for
you should. Game guides do very well on YouTube, sir.
Yeah, I was tempted to do a playthrough. I am also going to do a review for the GCP blog for this.
Oh, very nice, dude. Excellent.
Yeah, an official one. And I've also posted my link to the channel. If you all could please do so. That's not the whole game right here. This is just the first stage for the S rank, but I will likely do all the other ones and record them and put it into a playlist. I'm not sure how long that will take, but I'll get to it. That said, man, yeah, if you all could, if you have not done so, the channel link is right there. If you all could subscribe, I would appreciate that. Me and Danny, and also Crusader, who has been our newest addition to the show. Yeah, you all may have seen him on Twitter and such. Great dude, knows his stuff. Very knowledgeable. And yeah, come by and check us out. Thursdays at 8 o'clock Eastern on The Fix. Myself, Danny, or Daniel, should I say, J McGee, to give him his full official name and credit, and Crusader. And we'll have rotating guests here and there. Of course, we're approaching episode 100, like Boom pointed to. We're at 95 episodes right now.
Nice.
So we're there. We're almost there. And I mean, to be fair, we could have been there, but we missed some months, not some months, but we missed some days here and there that added up to possibly or so. But yeah, thank you, Mac. I see you just subscribed. I appreciate it. Yeah, also, of course, the Infinite podcast, myself, that blue number, and Spriggan, aka Dante Moody, hosted by Risk It for the Biscuit on Fridays at 8 o'clock Eastern. And of course, back here with the fellas right here at 12 o'clock Eastern on my time. Well, 12 o'clock Eastern and 11 my time. And for the fix, for the Xbox Factor. I got so many shows on. But yeah, thank you all in the chat again for for doing your thing. And Boom, thank you always for having a brother, even though sometimes I might doze off and miss you.
That's all right, brother. This is what happens when you work midnights. Trust me, I know. I work midnights only on overtime. I never was stuck on midnights, thankfully, either 4 to 12s or days. But I usually did days. I only did midnights for bringing in that extra bucks. Stopping crime at midnight.
Got to bring home the bacon. I get
it. Definitely. Unfortunately, there's a lot. There was back then. There was a lot of violence. It's even worse now. But listen, appreciate you being a part of this show, and of course, love the work that you do in the community, both on both shows that you're a part of. Let's sell the brand of the elusive gamer, Jamie Moran, Mr. Mass Effect himself, aka Mr. Splinter Cell, and maybe we'll get those 2 games in the future. Jamie, you have a show tonight, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with yourself and Logan Meyer. I don't know how many topics, but I'm sure there's a lot to talk about because you know what? There's been a lot of news, even though there was a holiday here in the States. Sell the brand. Where can people check out the Elusive Gamer channel on YouTube? And more importantly, follow you on social media.
Yeah, thanks, Boom. It's always a pleasure. My YouTube channel is The Elusive Gamer. I exclusively cover Xbox. All things Xbox podcast is on Tuesdays at 6 p.m. Eastern. We couldn't have a show last week because YouTube in the UK went down, which was lovely. This week we have around 17 topics. It's going to be a 2-hour show. I put out a video last night of the 20 biggest new games coming to Xbox in September. There's a lot of games people don't know about, which I think people need to pay attention to, and I also put the link to that video in the chat. So if people want to support the channel, subscribe. It's greatly appreciated. And the podcast tonight is at 6 p.m. Eastern.
Well, thank you so much for being here. And of course, I'll be in the chat as always. And folks, if you're not already subscribed to Infinite Umbra and of course, Jamie Moran, please do so. Their links are in the show notes and it's 2 clicks. And if you're feeling super generous and you want to click the bell icons to know whenever they go live with their content or drop videos, you'll get alerted. But ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for us here for today's new episode on the Xbox Factor podcast. And I want to say a big thank you once again to everyone that tuned in, everyone that dropped a super chat, a channel member chat, and a gifted sub. Again, Mrs. Boom and I do greatly appreciate the generosity. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to close up the show with something that's incredibly important to me. Hopefully one day it'll be important to you. And that's something that my dad taught me when we were kids. And he would say, Craig, treat others how you want to be treated. And also, it doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by those rules, son. I can guarantee you're going to have an awesome day. So take care, everyone. And we'll see you next week on the newest episode of the Xbox Factor podcast.